All right, guys, my beloved series is back. I'm bringing you your video on how to be successful on case study 2. I'm grading midterm 1, and I'm realizing that you guys are probably in a complete panic because some of the questions don't make sense to you, or you don't really know what you're supposed to write. An email I got from a student leads me to believe that you're also in a panic about your grades, and I don't want you to feel that way. I want you to feel like you're in more control. So to help you feel more in control, please watch this video before you submit your work, compare your work, and make sure that you're doing all of the things that I'm looking for you to do. All right, let's jump in. All right, so I'm not even gonna lie, I'm basically winging it. I'm not winging it in the sense that I don't know what I'm doing. I'm winging it in the sense that I haven't taught this class before, and so I'm kind of learning as I go when I'm grading. Like how to grade, how hard to be. So let me pull up the first part of case study 2. So the first part of case study 2 is to do the summary. So basically what I want you to do here, this is going to look very similar. You're probably just going to revise the one that you submitted for case study 1. And here, I just want you to aggregate the information from here to make decisions about what you're going to work on. What is this going to focus on? I feel like this sample already does it for you. So I don't know what to tell you guys. It's right there. It's right there for you to take. All right, so let's go to the next part. The next part is the warm up and the cool down. I have a lot to say about this. All right. So I see that she has that there are some samples in here, but these samples actually don't even meet ACSM guidelines in some cases. And they kind of like teach them in an order that I've not learned before. So I would prefer that you stick with my materials in the warm-up and cool-down portion. A lot of you have already taken EXW 217, and specifically with me. For those of you who have not taken a class with me before, I am the course lead for 217. So you may not have had me as your grader, but you had me as an instructor. All right, so really what you want to do in the warm-up is select exercises that will help the person either prepare for the activity that they're about to engage in. So the resistance training exercise, you can tailor it to whatever you have planned for that day. Or alternatively, you can tailor it to whatever their needs are. So for example, they may have poor hamstring flexibility or poor hip flexion in a squat or whatever the case may be. Now that I'm grading the midterm, you can see in the midterm, it gives you different things like the knee valgus during the concentric portion of I don't know, all different sorts of things that you do a movement analysis. You can get them from postural assessment, you can get them from flexibility assessment, you can get them from dynamic mobility, all that kind of stuff. You want to make decisions by putting that stuff into your warm-ups and cool-downs. You can correct them. You can correct them with flexibility exercises, and you can correct them with neuromotor exercises. So what I expect to see in a warm-up is if you're going to do foam rolling, you're going to start with foam rolling. Theoretically, you're supposed to foam roll for 90 seconds, but who wants to foam roll for 90 seconds? I'm not going to be too picky about that, but if you're going to include foam rolling, I'd like you to include it first. The next thing you're going to do is the general cardiovascular warm-up. You never, ever, ever, ever want anyone engaging in any sort of physical activity without doing the cardiovascular warm-up first. This includes resistance training. You got to do a 5 minutes at 50 to 60% of heart rate max in order to reduce an individual's risk for experiencing a cardiovascular event. It's absolutely mandatory. If you're going to not do anything, the only thing that you're going to do and include is that 5-minute warm-up. You can basically exclude everything else, but you need to include that warm-up. Next thing you're going to do for the warm-up, you can prescribe static stretches, dynamic stretches, neuromotor exercises. I have already put the parameters for ACSM guidelines everywhere. So to repeat for the 1 millionth time, the static stretching guidelines accumulate 60 seconds in 2 to 4 sets of 10 to 30 seconds per stretch per side. The dynamic stretching guidelines are 5 to 12 reps of increasing range of motion, and those are both, the intensity is going to be like slight discomfort. So you want it to feel, you want them to feel it, but you don't want them to feel it like it's painful. For neuromotor exercises, you're going to use endurance training parameters, so 1 to 2 sets, 1 to 4 sets, probably 1 to 2 sets of 10 to 20 reps at a light intensity, usually like body weight or something like that, or a very light, maybe just the bar, whatever the case may be, whatever you're preparing for. For the cool down, again, you're going to want to bring down the tissue temperature. You can do that with a general cardiovascular cool down, 5 minutes, 50 to 60% heart rate max. And then you can take advantage of your tissue temperature and pliability by focusing your cool down on your static stretching. That's what I like to see. I mean, it doesn't really make sense for me to see dynamic stretching in a cool down when you're preparing to stop exercise. Some dynamic exercises can actually get your heart rate higher. So think about that. You want to bring people back down to resting, you can do that with static stretching. All right, so that's how I will look at these. I don't care for this sample. I don't feel that it follows ACSM guidelines. I don't feel like the structure is very good. It may or may not meet the expectation that whatever the person needs, but I just am not a huge fan of this. Now we're going to move into the resistance training program. So you're going to do your general cardiovascular warm. I see that this is kind of like a complicated resistance training routine. I really want to encourage you to stay away from complicated routines while you're learning and just really stick to the basics. Make sure you get the fundamentals. Like high running, this isn't even resistance training, so it's unclear to me why this is in here. Perhaps this is some sort of interval training routine. I'm not really sure. But I don't feel like this is a good sample for you to follow in terms of working in cardio with resistance training, unless that is specifically what you plan to do. Instead, what I hope to see here is well-structured resistance training routines. So for example, if you have selected to do 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I might expect to see all days of full body, because the ACSM guidelines state you need a minimum of 48 hours rest. So if you do Monday and Wednesday, that means that you've had 48 hours of rest. You can really make the most out of you can really gain the most by doing legs on every single day and your large body parts on every single day that you resistance train, as long as you have sufficient rest. So for a Monday, Wednesday, Friday split, I think resistance training, all 3 days of like maybe different types of lower extremity exercises would be great, and different types of upper extremity exercises would be great. What I expect to see here also is, actually this is a good example of it. I expect to see your most complicated or technical lifts first. I expect the multi-joint movements to be first, and I expect the larger muscle groups to come first. What do I mean when I say that? So your technical lifts are going to be like your powerlifting, or your Olympic lifting. So your highly technical lifts that require speed, agility, strength, power, all of those things. A lot of technique, those will be first, because you can't do those under fatigue conditions. You're just asking for an injury. Followed by those, you can do your multi-joint, large muscle multi-joint movement. So when you're triaging, and when I say triaging, I mean like you're trying to rank, right? You're trying to decide which one I'm going to do first. If you're between doing, let's say, a squat and a bench press, you're always going to choose the squat first, because the legs are larger muscles than the chest and the anterior deltoids. So while they're both multi-joint movements, the squat demands more because the muscles are larger. So when I say triage, I mean I'm going to look at the exercise itself. I'm going to look at the muscles, and then I'm going to make a decision. So if I were going to do this, let's say I had a snatch first. Let's say I snatch first. I'm going to do that first above all else, because it is a technical lift. Then I'm going to go into my squat. I'll do my squat first because it is a multi-joint movement, large muscle groups. Let's say I'm also doing back that day. I will then move into my lat pull. Lat pull, multi-joint movement, lats, smaller muscles than legs. So I do that next. All right, I've got my, then maybe I do, I don't know, if I had to triage next and I was doing shoulders. Let's just say for some reason I was doing shoulders that day, full body. I would do shoulders next, because Shoulder press is a multi-joint movement, but the shoulder muscles are smaller than the lats, and so I triage that way. So once I'm done with those four large technical lifts, then I can move into my single joints. Let's say my bicep curls, my tricep extensions, those sorts of things. But if I wanted to also work on knee extensions and hamstring curls, well, I'm going to do my knee extensions first because my quads are the largest. Then I'm going to do my hamstring curls because those are larger than my biceps and my triceps. And they're all single joint movements. Then I'm going to do my bicep curl, single joint movement, smaller muscle. And then I'm going to do my tricep extension, single joint movement, smallest muscle of all. So to summarize, it would be the snatch, the most technical one first. Then I'm going to do the squat because it's multi-joint, large muscles. I do the lat pull next, multi-joint, larger than what comes next. Shoulder press, multi-joint, smaller than what precedes it, still multi-joint. Then I go knee extensions for the quads, single joint, largest muscle. Hamstring curls, single joint, larger but smaller than quads. Bicep curls, single joint, biceps are smaller. Triceps extension, single joint, smallest muscle. All right, and then abdominals, you can kind of work them in at any point. There's really no restrictions on core work. You can kind of do it all the time. Actually, on second thought, when I see this template, what I might prefer that you do is I'm going to leave it open. You do it how you want, but I want to see all of this information in here. I would prefer not to see the warm-up in here because that's in a different question, and the cool-down's in a different question, though I suppose it would be all right if you put everything. I don't know, guys. I'm winging it. Okay, so let's move on to volume. I saw that there was a question on volume in the midterm, and it appeared to me that it had not been covered in the module because nobody really talked about volume. Volume is actually sets times reps, and then intensity is a separate thing. With a beginner, or something that I noticed a lot with you guys doing is that you were prescribing 3 and 4 sets for beginner. I want to point out, let me just bring myself over here. I put some new materials in the module, so prescribing resistance training exercises by level of experience. Oh, well, let me just pause this and fix it. All right, guys, I'm in. You'll just have to copy. You can make a copy of this on your own by hitting here. I tried to put the copy link in there, but it wasn't working from Canvas for whatever reason. All right, so I've got this up and open for you. What I want to point you to is with a novice, there are specific intensities. Like this is already all thought out for you. All you need to do is decide, am I working power, strength, endurance, hypertrophy? What am I working? And then you come over here and then you start making choices. So depending on what you select for your client, let's say that I have decided that I'm going to take this client through a strength program. This tells me everything I need to know for a beginner. I'm going to prescribe 1 to 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps for somebody who's a novice. They're going to work out 2 to 3 days per week. They're going to do just like I went over just now. I'm going to do my large muscles before I'm going to do my small muscles. I'm going to do my multi-joint movements before I'm going to do my single joint movements. And I'm going to do my higher intensity or more technical movements before I'm going to do my lower intensity movements. If I'm worried about percentages, I've got them right here. I'm going to be working at 60 to 70% of 1 rep max. Now, for somebody who's well trained, 60 to 70%, 1 to 3 reps of 8 to 12 reps is probably, that's not going to be enough. They're going to be working at, much higher percentages, 80, 85%, 3 to 5 reps, probably 3 to 5 sets of 6 to 8 reps in the strength range. But for somebody who's a beginner, because of those neural connections that they're just starting to make, they're going to see rapid gains from fewer sets, fewer reps. So there's no need to go crazy here. We just got to get them to learn the movement and they'll see crazy gains. All right, so now that I pointed you in the direction of this, I hope that you see, if you're going for endurance, the exercise order doesn't matter as much. Though I do want you to be careful with that depending on, depending on what the client's goals are. Okay, so I guess I'll have to be lenient. I guess I just have to look at the parameters and see what you're selecting. All right, let me go back to the spreadsheet now. All right, so here we go. Sets, reps, volume. Okay. Rest between sets. Again, if you come back over here to this sheet, it tells you like how long. Okay, if you're working at this, they need to 1 to 2 minutes of rest between sets. Like this tells you everything. So just follow this. The intensity, well, if it's through 1 through 10, we're working at a 6 to a 7. If we're working in hypertrophy, if we're working, actually, I think for all of these, they're probably about the same. Yeah, they're all about the same for a beginner because everybody in the beginning is essentially training about the same. Percent heart rate max, I don't really, unless you have selected to do interval training, which I really want to discourage you from doing here in the beginning while you're just learning. I want you to stick with, does the instructions say to do a hit? Oh God, let me go check. All right, so I checked the instructions and it doesn't say to do it or to not do it. But my concern is that I have seen a lot of you prescribe exercise that is way too intense for a beginner. And my concern is that you might do that here and that might negatively impact your grade. And like, this is insane to me. Doing mountain climbers at 65%, that's not even physically possible. I would die if I did. How do you do mountain climbers at 65%? I cannot. I go too ham. Okay. Something else I want to point you to. Watch this column as I click through. Oh, it's the same. Oh, it's the same. Oh, I've gone up a little bit. Oh, I've gone up a little bit more. Oh, I've gone up a little bit more. Oh, I've gone up a little bit more. Okay, so I think what I'm trying to get at here is that these changes are going to be slow and gradual. This is maybe a little bit. This looks good. I mean, what I would expect to see is a microcycle is a week. A mesocycle is, you can read it's more than 2 weeks, but it's usually about 4 weeks. So I would expect to see, week 1 looks the same to itself. Week 1 looks the same over the days. Week 3 looks the same over days. Week 4 looks the same over days. And then weeks 1 through 4 all have something in common. Realistically, what you should do is say weeks 1 through 4 I'm working strength, weeks 1 through 5 through 8 I'm working hypertrophy, something like that. That's usually what you do in a mesocycle with traditional linear periodization. So I guess what I like about this is that these look similar, and all that has changed is we've gone from 8 reps to 10. I like that. Now, we've stayed the same here, but we've gone up in intensity. I see a mistake I see a lot of students making is trying to push too many levers at once, right? So they're going up with volume and they're also going up with intensity. And so it creates like this crazy exercise. By the end of the 8 weeks, it's like even a professional might die doing that exercise. So pull one lever at a time, okay? I'm going from 2 sets of 8 to 2 sets of 10. Intensity remains the same. Now, instead, I'm going to go up on intensity, keep this the same. Now I'll go up. All right, now I'm going to go up on my reps even more. Let me keep my intensity the same. But now I'm going to keep my reps about the same, and now I'm going to go up on my intensity. I like this. This is good. Okay, so I do recommend that. Let's see what else. Over here. Okay, this has it all in one. This looks like another sample. Maybe it's old student work. And then here, not sure what to put here. Sets times reps. Let's see. Is that what? I'm wondering. Yeah, 2 times 8. I guess it's the volume. 2 times 8. 2 times 10 would be 20. So it looks like the set rep scheme is staying the same. So you can see the volume increase over time. This increase in volume is like very aggressive. I might not expect to see that much progression so early on in somebody who's kind of new. I hope that this video gets you to think about what the best choices might be based on the science that we know through the ACSM, okay? We want to be working towards a minimum of 2 days per week of full body resistance training, if not more. We want to be working towards 150 minutes a week of cardiovascular exercise over 5 days. We can get away with less if we're doing interval training or higher intensity work 3 days per week. But with somebody who's new, we cannot do high intensity exercise. For somebody who's not been doing cardiovascular training before. Please, please, please refer to these supplementary materials. I just added more today on postural assessment because it became clear to me in the midterm that some people were not 100% sure what to do with a postural assessment. So hopefully this information helps you. Hopefully this video helps you. And feel free to drop into office hours. Happy to meet with you and answer your burning questions. All right, guys, good luck.